Good evening, and welcome back to True Stories 957. It's your girl, Miss Anonymous, back with another telling story. This time it's my story, y'all. This episode is called My Crazy Ex Part 2. No, it is not the same Crazy Ex from Part 1. It's a different one, because I got so many. um, and this one is a little different. Yeah, it still was an age gap. I don't know why, but I like dating older guys, and so I was in my 20s and he was in his 40s. He was also African American, and the first one was actually Caucasian, which tells you that a crazy ex could be any color. It doesn't matter. They're very diverse when it comes to crazy ex. Um, Backstory: we met. He hit me up in my DM. It goes down in the DM. Yes, it does. He hit me up in my DM on Facebook. Wanted to meet. He came to my city. We met at this club. Now I'm not a clubber, so eventually I was like, I had to head out. That's this not my thing. Um, he was like, let's go get something to eat. We went to Waffle House. We talked. He seemed like a pretty decent guy, and I thought he was more decent because of our history when it comes to outside of what we're trying to be. Um, we were linked when it comes to like Greek life. I say like almost Greek life, basically, sorority fraternity thing. So I was thinking he was a better citizen, upstanding gentleman. No, I thought wrong. When it came to different things, I found out he was like cheap. And I was like, is he cheap? Like, or and it's not that he didn't have money because he was retired military and he got a disability check. So those two things put together, oh yeah, you getting paid. I know how much that is. So he was just pretty much he didn't like to spend money, which is fine. But when he came back to visit, he wanted to stay at the Night's Inn. And I was like, oh no. Now, Night's Inn might be nice in some areas. When you go to the Midwest somewhere, yeah, it might be the best hotel over there. I'm not sure. But where I'm from, no. Right? It's equivalent to Quality Inn or Motel 6. That's what we look at it as where I'm from. So I was like, So I was like, this too much. Now he he was like abusive, right? He didn't start off that way. Like he started off, you know, a gentleman, but it didn't turn into how you got that grace period of it's like yeah, they gonna be nice and then they gonna show their true colors. That's what happened. Basically, he ain't had nothing. Nothing. He ain't had nothing going on for himself because he's retired military. He got all the time in the day. He did have a warrant. He out of another state. Had uh, he had a car but couldn't drive it because of that warrant at another state. They took his license, and he also had been a gang member. He said past, but I still think he is. Ain't no way you got out of that gang. No, there's no way. His mama brought him into a gang. She was a gang member. It's a family thing. He brought his son in. It just goes on. Um, so, long story short, he moved, like, he was living in Atlanta. Um, and so I lived elsewhere, right? A different state. He come visit, because he didn't have a car, he jumped on that mega bus, which I thought, now I think it's just hilarious these days, because now you got to have a car to date me. No. Um, and so he didn't have a car, right? And then he didn't work, but he did have income, so it wasn't like a big thing. And the man did not have his own place. And the only reason why he didn't have his own place, which is no excuse, because he could have had his own place, was because he had just moved from another state to Atlanta. So he was staying with his brother. And I think what happened was he got comfortable with staying with his brother. So, and his brother let him stay. So that's on them. But I think because he was helping them out with rent, because Atlanta's so high, they didn't care. They was okay with it. So then he would come down and visit, and then he'll go back, and then come down and visit and go back. And then, he would show little red flags of, putting his hand around my throat or on the back of my neck. When I tell him no, he does not like the word no. Whoever he dates, I feel bad for him, but you got to tell the man yeah for everything, because if not, he gonna beat you up. Like that's that's what it boils down to at this point. He turned into abusive, and he already had PTSD. So any little slight thing that you did that might set him off. Like I said one day, I was hungry. He flipped the switch, and it was the PTSD in him. He went off on me, and I'm looking at him like he crazy because that's all I said. But I'm like, it's the PTSD. Like they switch like that. Like they have a whole issues. So we went to events and stuff like that, and he showed his little decent gentleman like a normal gentleman would, but behind closed doors, no. He just be very abusive. He had even met my child because he had to, because I had to pick him up and I had my child. Now, when it came to my child, he could be the best stepdad ever. He loved kids. He loved kids, and he was good with kids. But you ain't good with me. So how that's gonna work? When I did have my child, he would never abuse me in front of my child. He pulled me into the bathroom and abused me. And then he go back out there like nothing happened. Go back out there like nothing happened. And go play video games with my child or play board game or whatever. Or talk to my child, teach him something. That's what he was doing. So I said, after a few months, I'm like, I don't know. Then he proposed, and I'm thinking this could be like a good, title relationship or a good title marriage, basically, when it came to our other things outside of this. But so I said, okay, fine, right? And after that, I mean, everything went downhill. The man raped me in Atlanta. I was like, really? Like, and then after that, that alone right there, I didn't run because I know his past, but soon as he had to go to work. Like he eventually got a job at that point, and he had to go to work, and I was like, good. And I went and got me a Plan B pill because he thought that he was finna trap me with some kids. No, he didn't finna trap me. Got a Plan B pill, went back to my city, and then I broke up with him. Now, that's when everything went downhill. I broke up with this man. Oh man, in a week or two, he had to move to my city. He had to find a place, move to my city. I'm saying, like, he had to come to my job. Like, I worked at the police department, yo. He done came to my job, stalking me, following me. He had to flatten my tires, put sugar in my tank. I'm talking about just doing the most. He was out there doing the most, y'all. Come to my house, let me know he been to my house by throwing his little old English beer cans in my yard. I would get home and I would see an old English can. I'm like, oh, he been here. Oh my gosh, because that's the only person I know who drinks that. Nobody in my neighborhood drinks that. Um, and then I was like, okay, so he want war. Only reason why it took me so long is because with him is because of his background of a gang member, and he's violent. Uh, pretty much, threatened to kill me before I even broke up with him. So that's why it actually took me so long. But I had had enough because I always had to look over my shoulder. Like I would go out with my friends, and I would come back to my car, and there'd be nails in my tire at the restaurant. Like I was like, oh wow, like you too old to be acting like this. He at the time he was 46. This was like 2017. So I'm like, and I'm 20 something. I'm like, I act more mature than you do. So eventually I had got tired. I had to talk to my supervisor. Well, I asked to talk to my best friend about it. Um, they seen something was wrong with me. Basically, talking to my best friend at work, and then I was sitting at the computer. I just be working. But I guess something seemed off about me. I guess something they noticed something that was off about me because this was really bothering me. And so, my supervisor called me to the office, and she she was like, "What's going on with you?" And so I told her the whole story. I was like, "This what he doing?" Like, she's like, "Is it?" Because she was like, "Is it your fiance?" I was like, "He's the one's doing the most." Um, I told her what happened in Atlanta. I told her everything. Like me and her wasn't that as close, but we talked about stuff. Like it wasn't nothing that we couldn't say to each other. I was realist, and I'll tell her how it is. So she knew that I wasn't giving her no bull. So then she was like, "Well, this what you need to do," and my supervisor was a lawyer, so I love it. But she was like, "This is what you need to do. I need to go get a restraining order." Now, I had thought about that, right? But I just didn't act on it. So she told me on the company time, "Hey, you gotta go to court right now. Go do this." Right? So I went down there to court and did it while I was at work. Now, I put everything he did to me in that restraining order. It is public record. um, he literally, they served him in the same day he violated, which I knew he would. And he had been putting stuff on Facebook, making posts, like threatening posts on Facebook, and telling me, basically, and they were just putting out there for the whole world to see, basically saying a restraining order ain't gonna stop him. That's so funny. Like, I was like, oh my God. So he just ain't gonna stop. And, but what happened was, when he violated the restraining order, it was okay because what he did was um, put where he was at on Facebook. So we were able to track him that way when it came to that. I was able to save his screenshots of him threatening on Facebook and use that in court. Um, so they found him. They was hoping that he would resist. I was hoping that he would resist, but he just came, so calmly, like he ain't did nothing. They arrested him. That was the first time, and then he got out, violated some more. They arrested him again. Now we had a whole meeting of how we were gonna get rid of this man because he was getting on our nerves. So, and this is on our nerves. I mean, my chain of command and everybody. Like this had went higher than my manager at this point. Um, so we looked into it. We pulled some stuff, and that warrant that he had out of another state was extraditing. They were gonna extradite him. It happened like that. I was like, yes. So they extradited him. So he was in jail for a minute. I was in peace. Um, he went back to that state. He stayed there for probably like 5 months in jail. After that, he was right back to where he started, and I was like, "Oh, here he go again." He popped up in my job, stalking me, doing the most with my car. I said, "You just ain't gonna leave me alone. Like I ain't even did nothing to you, but leave you." But you had this whole fantasy that we were gonna be a family, and I was gonna have two more of your kids. Um, no, no. So he eventually violated, and I had to put him back in jail again. Actually, he had violated twice because he had came to my house and he came to my job. Um, and I had confronted him when he came to my job because I'm tired of you. So he was like, "I'm sorry, I want to pay for the damage to your car. I'm good on that. I'm good on that. No, just get away from me." So put him back in jail. I said, "I'm done. Don't leave me alone." Now, eventually, I can't even remember how it stopped, but I think I moved to somewhere he couldn't find me. I moved and I changed my car, y'all. I had to buy a new car. I changed my car and I moved to somewhere else in the same city. Eventually, he got out. He went back to wherever he went, Atlanta, wherever, and then he went back to um, where he was originally from because at that time his life had gotten actually better by getting arrested for that warrant. He now had his license back so he could drive. You know, he had some cleared stuff up just by getting arrested and serving that time. So he lives in another state, and I guess he would fly down and then come over and leave his old English beer cans. And then one day my brother had to pull a gun on him because he wouldn't get off my property. Like, no. So I said, okay, fine. This, I don't want you, right? Like, I just don't. Move on. So I guess he moved on a little bit, but he didn't move on because he keep bothering me now. To this day, this man still don't go nowhere. He don't stalk me. He don't really know where I'm at. He knows I'm what state I'm in though, but he doesn't know exactly where I'm at. But he can't move on for some reason. I don't get it. But I would like to say the red flags were there. I just didn't pay attention to them. But in the future, oh, best believe y'all. Listen, if they ain't got no car, no. If they don't have a job, no. Yeah, you could be retired, but if you ain't got no job, you got too much time on your hands. You got to have a job. I don't care if you're retired. You better be doing something with your life because you're not going to be stalking me all day because you ain't got nothing else to do. Um, red flags, the abusive red flags and stuff like that. Those stuff, PTSD, flipping out. Those were just all red flags. So those are things that I learned over time to deal with. Even with my first crazy ex, it just happened to you learn from your mistakes, and over time you don't want to deal with certain things. Like me, I'm not dealing with um, those things again. No, the more I date, the more I learn. So, but yeah, so I would like to say that crazy exes don't discriminate on race. They're everywhere. Men in general. I don't. I hate to say this, but sometimes y'all don't know how to deal with y'all feelings, and I ain't gonna say women don't, but it's mostly just, and most of the time on the news you seeing domestic violence or a man killing a woman because she want to leave. Just it's okay to let go, and this is for both men and women. It's okay to let go. If somebody doesn't want you, don't make them live in misery because they don't want you. Move on. There's plenty of people out there in the world to go get. Especially there's more women than men out there. So if you're a man, it should be easier for you to go find somebody else. Unless you got some serious issues. Um, but yeah, this is my story, my crazy ex part 2. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any crazy ex stories, y'all, send them to me. True Stories 957 at gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram at True Stories 957. Please, please, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, y'all. And you guys have a wonderful night.